That morning, I had just hauled a full cart of groceries into the house. I hadn't even taken off my shoes when my daughter, Sophia, wandered out of her bedroom in pajamas, holding a printed sheet of paper. Mom, she began, her voice deliberately low, as if trying to sound casual but expectant. I made a little graduation wish list. I've worked hard all these years, and now that I'm finally an adult heading to college, I figured this could be your way of showing you're proud of me. I squinted, set the shopping bags down on the kitchen island, and took the paper from her hand. It was a black and white printout of four neatly numbered items on standard letter size paper. iPhone 14 Pro, base model, $890 MacBook Pro plus accessories, external keyboard, stand, cooling pad, etc. Total $1,800 $2,000 discretionary cash. No questions, no conditions. Chanel 19 bag, small size. Retail $5,800. My eye twitched involuntarily when I saw the last one. Are you heading to college or prepping for something else? I tried to keep my tone light, though the muscle near my temple gave me away. Sophia stretched her arms over her head and shrugged like she hadn't just dropped a bomb. Mom, I'm an adult now. Gotta start building my personal brand. You've seen the girls I follow on Instagram? This is how they all started. Before I could respond, she plopped herself onto a bar stool at the kitchen island and continued, and guess what? My boyfriend Travis, his dad's a VP at a major firm. I can't exactly show up to dinner with his parents carrying a Coach bag, can I? One hand still gripped a grocery bag, the other clutched her expense guide. My brain was trying to catch up. Your boyfriend? I asked, trying to trace back how I missed this. When did that happen? Shouldn't we be talking about that first? She shrugged again, entirely unfazed. It's not like you can do anything about it. We've been together almost 6 months. He says I need to present myself like someone who's with him. You don't think that makes sense? I wasn't sure what nauseated me more, the line about presenting herself or the demand for an unrestricted cash fund. Still, I forced myself to swallow the frustration and transferred money for the first three items. The iPhone and MacBook? Fine, those were arguably school-related. The $2,000? I hesitated, then wired it anyway. Sophia smiled as she tapped through her phone, confirming the deposits. You'd come through. You always get me, Mom. I didn't respond. I just folded the list and set it aside. But, I finally said, I can't justify the Chanel bag. You haven't even started college yet. You're barely 18. Do you really need a $6,000 designer purse to claim girlfriend status? Her expression shifted instantly. A small, smug smile curled at the edge of her lips, condescending, dismissive. If you don't want to buy it, just say so, she snapped, snatching the list off the counter. My lab partner's mom got her a limited edition Louis Vuitton. I'm asking for an entry-level Chanel, and somehow that's outrageous. Because you're not working. You're not financially independent, I said as calmly as I could manage. That amount of money is no small deal for me, and to be honest, I don't like this whole show-off mentality you're developing. She stood up straight, eyes locked on mine, sharp as a blade. You know what, Mom? She said, her voice turning icy. No wonder Dad had to go find someone else. Silence fell like a hammer. Only the low hum of the refrigerator filled the space, competing with the pounding in my ears. What did you just say? The words came out of me in a voice I barely recognized, thin, brittle, and cracking. Sophia showed no sign of remorse. She stepped closer, tugging a delicate chain from under her pajama collar and swinging it lightly under the kitchen light. This necklace, she said with a smug little smile, it's from Dad and Jennifer. They've been together for almost 2 years. He said he only lit one candle for your anniversary dinner to save money for this. It felt like a shard of ice had lodged in my stomach. I remembered that night with unbearable clarity. John walked in with nothing but a cake box, no actual cake, just a single birthday candle stuck upright in the empty tray. He said we should be frugal. I even laughed, told him, yeah, with Sophia going to college, it makes sense to save. I really laughed harder than I should have, harder than crying. And you thought this moment right now, was the time to drop this on me? My voice was tight, the words sharp-edged. You think that makes you mature? That announcing your dad's affair earns you some kind of first lady badge? At least I'm not the idiot in the room, she snapped, her words like knives. What's there to be proud of, Mom? You're old, you're stingy, you make all this money every month and can't even buy your daughter a decent purse. You're the biggest joke in this house. I stood up so fast my chair nearly toppled. Something inside me snapped like a fuse finally blowing after years of static. I reached out and gave her a shove, not hard, but enough to make her stumble backward into the edge of the kitchen island. She clutched her arm and glared at me. Are you out of your mind? My chest was heaving. I couldn't find my voice. She froze for a beat, then rage boiled over. You pushed me. Are you seriously losing it over a stupid bag? No, I said, trembling but cold. Because you've thrown away every ounce of decency for one. She shook with fury, lunging toward me, trying to snatch the phone out of my hand. I grabbed her wrist, forced my thumb onto the fingerprint sensor, unlocked the phone, and went straight to the banking app. In a few rapid taps, I refunded all three transfers, the iPhone, the MacBook, and that glorious Freedom Fund. Total, $4,700. The confirmation chime dinged. I dropped the phone against her chest like a stone. This is my house, I said, as evenly as I could. You either leave or start paying rent. Her face flushed crimson. She pointed at me, sputtering, You've lost your damn mind. She spun around, grabbed two dresses and a handful of lipsticks, stuffed them into a tote, and stormed out. The front door slammed so hard the whole house shook with it. I stood there in the middle of the kitchen, frozen, hands still trembling. I had never laid a hand on my daughter before, and of all moments, it happened on a Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't about the purse, it wasn't about the money. It was the moment I realized this house I've poured my life into never really belonged to me. After the door slammed shut, I stayed rooted in the kitchen, motionless for a solid 3 minutes before I finally sat down. My hands still trembled, my heart pounded like a bass drum against my ribs. I looked at the list still lying on the counter. Plain white paper, black printed ink, 4 neatly labeled items. Every line shouted the same thing. You're not a mother here, you're an ATM. I pulled my phone from my bag, opened the banking app, and confirmed the $4,700 had been returned. Then I went into settings and shut it all down. Family payment plans, auto transfers, shared subscriptions, even her linked Amazon account. Done. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. This wasn't the first time I'd felt alone, but it was the first time I understood what it meant to be exiled from your own family. I don't know how long I sat there before my phone buzzed. A text from John. Sophia came by. She didn't look great. Said you two had a fight. Were you being dramatic again? I didn't reply. A minute later, another message. She hasn't eaten. You shouldn't treat her like that. I stared at the words, my knuckles turning white. She hasn't eaten? What the hell were the meals I'd made for the past 18 years? The ones I paid for, shopped for, stood at the stove for. The hours I spent teaching her to cook so she wouldn't grow up helpless? And now I'm the villain for not shelling out thousands for a purse? All that money I made, most of it went into this house, this family. Has anyone even once acknowledged it as sacrifice, as care, as love? I forced the spiral in my head to stop and stood up, walking into the study. There it was, John's old laptop, still on the desk. I opened it. He hadn't changed the password, and somehow I just knew. This wasn't some spontaneous outburst from an 18-year-old. Girls don't just blurt out, Dad's cheating and bought me jewelry, unless someone's been feeding them a script. Someone had been coaching her. And John's browser history, it didn't disappoint. In his search history, the words glared back at me like neon signs in a dark alley. How to get your daughter to accept your new girlfriend. Why a man needs a son. Starting a second marriage with confidence. Using gifts to bond with your stepchild. I scrolled slowly, my finger cold against the mouse. Line by line, the ugliness unraveled, and then an ad popped up on the screen that made my whole body stiffen. Elite fertility services. Guaranteed baby boy. I laughed. Not a light-hearted laugh, a brittle, jaw-clenching laugh sharp enough to draw blood. How could I not? The memory was too vivid. It was John who had been diagnosed with low sperm motility. It was me who followed him through that brutal, humiliating IVF journey. He hadn't wanted to tell his parents it was his issue, so I took the blame. I wore the shame. I swallowed hormone pills and endured daily injections that made my body feel like it was swelling with cement. While I was throwing up in the hospital hallway, dizzy from the meds, he sat in the car scrolling stock tips, never even brought me a bottle of water. And now here he was, planning his second attempt, shopping for a son like it was a luxury item he'd forgotten to order the first time, some heir to carry the torch of a legacy that never even existed. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Instead, I calmly opened the drawer next to me, pulled out a file folder, and took out the property deed. That house, this house, had been mine before we were even married, back when I was still the lead content creator on a major cooking channel. Those brand deals, they paid double what I earn now. After we got married, I gave it all up, left the contract, stepped away from the spotlight, switched to freelance work so I could be more available for the family. For us, I thought it was a sacrifice, but in hindsight, it was just me removing myself from the picture. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from the bank. Alert. Transfer failed. Recipient has enabled 24-hour delay for incoming funds. My heart sank. I quickly opened my transaction history, scrolled to the refund I'd sent Sophia, $4,700. She'd set it up, a deliberate 24-hour hold on the funds. Then a new message popped up on WeChat, of all things, from Sophia. Didn't see that coming, huh, old lady? I set the delay myself. If you don't send the $5,800 too, I'll report you for fraud. You'll get investigated and lose work time, and I'll get the money anyway. Be smart. Send it now. Win-win. I stopped breathing. I wasn't looking at a tantrum. I wasn't looking at a bratty, impulsive teenager. This was a blueprint. She had planned it, every step, and I was the mark. A blackmail target, a mother targeted by her own daughter. I leaned back in the chair and exhaled slowly, the air scraping through my chest. Then I reached for a sticky note and picked up a pen. No emotion, just actions now. To do, cancel all financial links to Sophia. Transfer key assets, retain full control. Call attorney, begin evidence documentation. Call mom, ask her to secure Sophia's jewelry. Change all locks. I placed the sticky note under the monitor, lined it up perfectly. She gave me 24 hours, a countdown, an ultimatum, then let her watch what I can do in 24 hours. I'll make sure she never forgets it. Sophia pounded on the door for nearly 15 minutes before she finally left. I didn't make a sound, didn't turn on a single light. I just sat there on the old leather couch in the living room, listening to the sharp click of her heels as she stormed down the front steps and out the iron gate. Each step echoed louder than the last, less like a retreat, more like a declaration of war. I closed my eyes and leaned back, taking a long breath in. Phase 1 was complete. She was out. The accounts were unlinked. The locks were changed. Her jewelry had already been converted into assets under my name. My attorney's team was on standby, the paperwork ready. Next up, John. I knew he wouldn't take this lying down. He and his mother had gambled big on Sophia, betting I'd cave under pressure, cough up money, maybe even sell the house or hand over my ad revenue out of guilt. They thought I was still the same woman who cleaned up quietly after the storm, who kept her head down and waited for it all to blow over. But not this time. Right on cue, at 4:30 the next afternoon, the doorbell rang. I glanced at the monitor. John stood outside, holding a bag of deep red cherries, my favorite variety. He was dressed in his most inoffensive outfit, soft cotton crew neck, spotless sneakers, hair neatly combed. He looked like someone who just walked out of a wealth management brochure. I opened the door. He smiled, disarming as ever. Hey, honey, these finally went on sale, $18.99 a pound. I picked up 3. I didn't take the bag, didn't step aside to let him in, but he slid past me anyway, like he still had ownership of the place. He took off his shoes, dropped the fruit on the counter, and rinsed his hands at the sink, like it was still his kitchen, still his home. I stayed rooted in the living room, arms crossed. He glanced at me, popped a cherry into his mouth, and spat the pit into the trash with a loud click. You know, Sophia, he started, using that tone he always used when pretending to mediate. She's just young. She came home yesterday, really emotional. I heard you hit her. That was too much. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Since when do you care about her emotions? She bombed her chemistry final 3 years in a row. You ever once sit her down for a heart-to-heart? That shut him up for a second, but he shifted gears fast. I didn't come here to fight, he said, holding up the cherry container like a peace offering. I just want to talk. I sat down, crossed one leg over the other, my eyes locked on his. Talk about what? How you and your daughter tried to run a con on me? Or are we here to discuss when you and your lifestyle consultant, Jennifer, are planning to make it official? His smile froze. He gave a small, forced laugh, pretending not to hear. I just think the whole bag thing got blown out of proportion, he said, voice sugary. Sophia's going off to college. It wouldn't kill us to give her something to help her fit in. Fit in? I said, raising an eyebrow. Why don't you whip out a PowerPoint while you're at it? Show me the ROI on a designer handbag as a primary identity for an 18-year-old. He flinched at that, but kept going. I mean, okay, Chanel was maybe a bit much, but we could pivot. LV maybe? My buddy's daughter has that one, the Speedy. More low-key. It's like 1-800-HOLLERS. Totally appropriate for a student. I glanced at his phone. A photo was still visible on the screen. Sure enough, it was an LV Speedy, complete with a watermark in the corner from some influencer platform, and in the bottom left corner, the username, Jennifer. My blood went cold. So Jennifer wasn't just playing stepmom from the sidelines. She was styling Sophia, snapping pics, chasing clout on social media. That bag wasn't even for Sophia. It was hers. She just used my daughter's name to get the receipt. I didn't say a word. I just walked over, calmly closed the cherry container. Get out, I said. John blinked. What? I've seen enough of your little performance. I let you in out of courtesy. You don't get to use it to sell me on a shopping strategy. His face tightened, the mask slipping a little. Michelle, come on, I'm being real here. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just think Sophia's rebellious right now, and going head to head with her isn't the way. You want to know what she said to me yesterday? I asked, my voice steady. I didn't blink. She said, no wonder Dad cheated. You're a sneaky who tried to blame your infertility on him. John's face turned gray. His mouth opened, but I didn't give him time. So let me ask you now, I said, my tone like ice. Did you tell her it was me who couldn't have kids? He hesitated for a beat, 3 seconds of silence. Too long. Then he pulled the corner of his mouth into a strange smirk. I just said we always wanted a son and you were getting older. So you lied. I cut him off. You told our daughter it was me to preserve your image, to excuse your affair. I let out a breathless, joyless laugh. Fine. Then let's tell her right now, I said, my voice cutting clear and low, who it really was that tested with near-zero sperm motility, who took 3 full rounds of injections, who spent an entire year on hormones just to bring her into this world, who signed every one of those medical liability waivers. John's face collapsed completely, but I wasn't done. I stepped closer, my tone sharp and quiet, like a scalpel. Do you have the guts to tell her you're the one who can't have another child? He stumbled back, a flicker of panic surfacing in his eyes. Stop, he muttered. That's not good for anyone. I let out a soft, dry laugh. Then you better go tell your mother to quit bartering on her imaginary grandson because her son doesn't even have the hardware for it. I opened the door. He stood frozen on the threshold, lips twitching like he wanted to speak, then thought better of it. He grabbed his cherries and left, humiliated, without another word. I shut the door and locked it behind him. In that moment, I knew this marriage wasn't just over. It was dead. But I wasn't ready to bury it. I wanted it to rot in the open, loud, public, putrid, until no one dared touch the remains. I rarely visited Loretta, John's mother. Every time I did, the air felt thinner, the walls tighter. But sometimes the only way to truly see someone is to catch them when they think you're not watching. I had called earlier that day, told her I wanted to come by and check in on Sophia. I made my voice sound tired, conciliatory, just enough for Loretta to believe I was ready to make peace. At 4 p.m., I parked a block away from their house. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't even shut the car door hard. When I reached the porch, I saw the front door slightly ajar, voices drifting out. It's not just about money, Loretta was saying, her voice crisp and deliberate. It's about having someone young around, someone to fill the space. She paused, then added, Your father grew up with 5 siblings. We didn't have much, but it was lively. There was always someone around. That's what makes a house a home. I stopped dead at the door, that same passive aggressive message. I'd heard it since the day I married into this family. If you really cared, you'd give us more children, a son, a proper household structure. Never once had she asked whether I could physically handle another pregnancy, whether our finances could absorb it, whether stepping back from work again would break my momentum. All she ever cared about was whether the family photo matched the script in her head. I rang the doorbell slow and light, then gently pushed the door open as if I hadn't heard a word. Sophia sat stiffly on the couch, that now familiar expression on her face, halfway between reluctant and trapped. She straightened instinctively when she saw me. Loretta greeted me with a practiced warmth. Michelle, finally, come in, come in. I made your favorite beef marrow soup. I didn't answer. I set my bag on the kitchen counter and lifted the lid of the pot. The aroma rushed up, rich and savory, but it didn't comfort me. It felt like theater lighting backstage, bright, precise, and utterly fake. The air smelled like performance. I ladled a bowl, carried it to the table, and sat down. How have things been? I asked casually. Loretta smiled. Wonderful. Sophia's been more responsible lately, coming home early, helping around. I told her, family is the safest place. You can't trust people out there. I didn't respond. My eyes caught the edge of a magazine on the side table, Building Positive Family Culture in the Home, splashed across the cover. My attorney's words from the day before echoed in my mind. They say, the child, when it suits them, but when it comes to inheritance or accountability, suddenly it's all about responsibility. I set my spoon down and looked straight at Sophia. Have you been in touch with your Mr. Travis lately? She hesitated, then shook her head. Not really, he's been busy. I nodded, didn't push. Her face looked unsettled. Even she wasn't sure where that relationship stood. I did catch his dad on the news, though, I said casually. Big expansion plans for their company in the South. It's a major move. Loretta jumped in. I heard his father's very sharp, strict with his son, too. If Travis makes it big, Sophia is going to make this family proud. I turned and looked at her. Where did you hear that? She blinked, then smiled again. Oh, just the neighborhood buzz. Travis's family is considered upper middle around here. It's been in the papers. So you're hoping Sophia marries him? She froze for a second, then said, I just want her to have a stable future. A girl needs a strong man by her side, someone to protect her from being taken advantage of. I almost laughed. In Loretta's world, protection wasn't love. It was leverage, power dynamics, having a man with status to keep you in place. That had always been her unspoken message to me. No matter how much I earned, no matter how much I poured into this family, if I didn't give them a son, I was incomplete. I glanced at Sophia. She was staring at her phone, her thumb paused on a short video of a crying girl holding a baby. The caption read, Abandoned by my ex. Now I'm a single mom. I stood up and picked up my bag. I should get going. You two enjoy dinner. Loretta sprang up. You won't stay for a bit? I was just about to make your favorite sweet corn porridge. I shook my head. Don't bother. As I reached the door, she followed me out. Michelle, I didn't mean anything by what I said earlier, Loretta called out as I stepped off the porch. I just think a house feels less lonely when it's full. I turned and looked at her. Then ask your son when he plans to take responsibility for a full house, because he can't even protect the daughter he already has, yet you want him to add more people to the mess. She opened her mouth but had no answer. I walked down the steps. The sun hit my windshield at just the right angle to blind me, a blinding glare that forced my eyes shut. It was hot inside the car. When I opened the door, a wave of heat smacked me in the face, but inside I felt cold. Not the kind of cold that comes from sorrow, the kind that comes from clarity, from something inside finally breaking, from a delusion being snapped clean in half. I had once believed I could fix this family, but now I knew the only way to escape the trap was to leave it. I never returned to Loretta's house after that. I turned all my focus toward Jennifer. You want to steal my family, turn my daughter against me, get your hands on my assets? Then I need to know, are you even worth the fight? I started with her social media. Her account was public, a Jennifer. The profile photo showed her wrapped in a wool shawl, sipping wine lakeside, all curated silhouette and suggestion. Her bio read, lifestyle coach, two amazing boys, building a brighter home. I scrolled through her feed, post after post, a performative carousel of maternal bliss and domestic perfection. Her boys picking up rocks in the woods, tents on a manicured lawn, midnight shots of her plating dinner for her boyfriend, his wrist just barely in the frame. I recognized the watch. It was a corporate gift John had received 2 years ago for leadership excellence. She had scrubbed their couple photos, but left his fingerprints all over the edges. I took screenshots, saved everything. Then I found a photo of her and Sophia on the beach, smiling, flashing peace signs. Caption, this girl is stronger than she thinks. You taught my daughter rebellion, but you never taught her the line she shouldn't cross. I kept scrolling until I hit a photo of a dinner menu printed on plain paper. 4 listed dishes, popcorn spiced shrimp, shredded chicken tacos, caramelized avocado sandwiches, porcini potato chowder. These weren't just dishes, these were ours. Recipes. My parents and I had perfected over 3 years. She didn't just manipulate Sophia, she stole the one thing from my family that could actually be monetized. I called my mother. She was digging through our kitchen cabinets and I thought she was just curious. My mom's voice trembled. Are you telling me she took our recipes? She did, I said flatly, trying to keep my tone steady. She's using them in a private catering business. If your grandfather knew, he won't, I cut her off, because I'll make sure she regrets staying alive long enough to use them. That night, I sent an email to Jennifer. Let's talk. Just you and me. Your son's future is worth your honesty. Think about it. She didn't reply, but at 10 a.m. the next morning, she walked into the cafe I had named. She was impeccably dressed, hair curled, makeup subtle, carrying herself like she chaired the PTA at a prep school. She sat down and got straight to it. What do you want? You were going to find out about me and John eventually. I'm not here for a confession, I interrupted. I placed my phone on the table, screen down. Do you have any idea how much evidence you've left behind? Photos, transfers, hotel check-ins, chat logs. You didn't even bother using an alias. Her eyes flickered, but she held her posture. I'm not a public figure. I have a right to date whoever I want. Of course you do, I smiled. Shame he's legally married. Ever wonder if scholarship boards check into a parent's credibility when vetting a student's application? That caught her off guard. You're trying to blackmail me, she said sharply. No, I said, still smiling. I'm collecting evidence. She narrowed her eyes. And what makes you think I'd help you? I lowered my voice, speaking the line I'd saved for last. Because you're pregnant. 3 months along. She froze for 2 full seconds, her face drained of color. Then she straightened in her seat. You've been investigating me. I don't have to, I shrugged. You posted a photo outside an OB clinic. The reflection in the glass showed a date and your full name. I zoomed in. Her jaw clenched. She said nothing. You really want to pin your entire future on John? I asked, voice calm. You're smart. You know how to live. Why not carve a better path for yourself and your sons? 10 minutes later, we had a deal. She would hand over all materials tied to the affair. My format. Full screenshots. Physical evidence. In return, I promised to keep the matter in family mediation, protect her kids' records, and ensure her name stayed out of it. Just before I left, she added bitterly, I don't want John's money anymore. I just want out. I stood, collected the folder. Good. Remember, you're the side character now. Everything moves at my pace. She didn't respond, just bit her lip hard, eyes full of rage and humiliation. That night, I filed every document into its designated folder, locked it in the fireproof safe. Then I sent John a text. Something came up with your mom. We need to talk. When you're hunting, it pays to let the prey get nervous first. Divorce? That's not my move to make. Let him say it. That night, just as I finished cleaning the kitchen, the phone rang. Loretta. Michelle, she began, using that deliberately softened, syrupy voice she always saved for moments of manipulation. Are you feeling a little off lately? John mentioned you've been bringing up a lot of old issues. I turned off the faucet, dried my hands, and answered, Yeah, I've been stressed. You know how marriage can be hard for both people. She jumped on that like she'd been waiting. I knew it. Women, once they hit a certain age, it's natural to overthink, but you can't let one bad patch undo decades of marriage. What are you trying to say? I sat down, put her on speaker, and turned the volume up. There was a pause. She was choosing her words carefully now. I just think maybe it's time you and John stop dragging this out. He's under a lot of pressure at work. If you keep snapping at him, it's not good for either of you. You're suggesting I initiate a divorce? I asked, my voice flat. She let out a light laugh. I didn't say that. I'm just saying maybe it's something you should both think about. I closed my eyes as she launched into her prepackaged monologue about amicable endings, how assets can be discussed, how no one wants things to turn ugly between in-laws, and how kids still need both parents. Every word sounded diplomatic. Every sentence hinted at one thing. Know your place, sign the papers, don't make a scene. I waited until she paused, then smiled. You're right. Why don't you have John be the one to say it? The next afternoon, John showed up, dressed in a full suit, trying to look composed, like a man who had just walked out of a boardroom with good news in clean hands. But I could see through him, the tight jaw, the over-rehearsed calm. He started the conversation in his best, mature, evolved man tone. Michelle, I think we've both come to a point where maybe it's time we free each other. I nodded. Sounds like you've given it a lot of thought. He smiled, relieved, almost triumphant. I really have. There's been so much miscommunication lately. A split might be healthiest for both of us. I didn't blink. So let's talk assets. What's your plan? He cleared his throat. You keep the house, we split the business account 50-50. As for your channel's ad revenue, well, that's marital effort. I think a fair percentage split makes sense. I actually laughed. You think me waking up at 3 a.m. to write scripts, film content, edit footage, and answer thousands of comments, that was our joint project? His face flickered with frustration, then he quickly masked it. I'm trying to keep this civil. If you don't want to negotiate, we'll let the courts handle it. Fine by me, I stood. Let's have a judge decide what's fair. He wasn't expecting that. The little flicker of superiority died instantly. He counted on me folding. That night, I called my legal team. Let's move forward with filing. I've got the affair evidence. The financial records are backed up. If he wants a fight, he'll get one. When the summons was delivered, John went pale. At the first court hearing, he tried playing the wounded husband, said we'd both made mistakes, said we had different visions for parenting, tried to paint it as a mutual collapse. I sat across from him in a tailored charcoal gray dress suit, hair pinned up, makeup sharp but clean. I didn't flinch. When he finished, I opened my iPad and played the first video, John and Jennifer, hand in hand, entering a beachside rental, time-stamped. Then the bank records. Multiple transfers to Jennifer, thousands, far beyond anything explainable. Then Sophia's post. She and Jennifer shopping at an upscale mall. The background music, Material Girl. John's face went ghost white. Loretta, sitting in the back, stared down at her phone like she was trying to disappear into the wallpaper. The judge's expression barely shifted. After reviewing the evidence, she closed the file and said, in my view, the defendant has demonstrated consistent financial and emotional misconduct throughout this marriage. Under California law, the plaintiff is entitled to favorable asset distribution. I lowered my head slightly and closed my notebook. John leaped up. So this is all about money to you? You just wanted to humiliate me? I looked up at him, utterly calm. No, you're the one who made it about money. I rose slowly, looked him dead in the eye. I made it about freedom. I made it about never again letting a toxic man hold the keys to my life. I'm not his wife. I'm not his personal ATM. I'm not the woman his daughter gets to compare to his girlfriend like we're in some sick pageant. I am Michelle Carter, and starting today, no one gets to tie me down with a family title I didn't consent to. The judge's gavel came down. Case closed. John walked away with nothing but an old SUV and a shrinking credit limit. He slammed the courtroom door behind him, didn't even look back. After the divorce, John vanished like vapor off hot pavement. Within days, he was suspended from his job. The official reason was attendance irregularities and personal crises affecting performance. Turns out, when you're constantly leaving early, taking mystery business trips with your assistant, and getting caught on camera, even a tolerant suburban company will cut its losses. He lost the company credit card, his lease expired, and he moved back into Loretta's one-bedroom apartment. Less than a week later, they were at each other's throats. Neighbors said they could hear them screaming from the sidewalk, something about, "Stop controlling me. You've been pushing me my whole life." And "This house was never yours to begin with." Soon after, Loretta posted in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Looking for small one-bedroom rental. Quiet area preferred. Urgent." John stopped responding to my messages, didn't call Sophia, didn't show up to the first property settlement meeting. His lawyer emailed mine. Client currently undergoing short-term psychological evaluation due to emotional instability. In other words, he'd imploded, and I knew that was just the prelude. The real storm was building somewhere else, on Sophia's side. That night, I was filming a late-night cooking segment. Just me, my rolling pin, and a quietly humming phone stand on the kitchen counter. Midway through frosting a cake, I got an email notification. One line from my mother. She came to us. I called immediately. My father answered. She didn't cry, didn't yell, he said quietly. Just walked in and asked if we had a spare room for the night. I paused for 3 seconds. Did she say why? She said she broke up with Travis. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and grabbed my keys. By the time I got to my parents' house, Sophia was sitting at the dining table, arms wrapped around a cream-colored canvas bag, hair messy, skin pale. My mom had handed her a bowl of chicken soup. She hadn't touched it. I sat down across from her. She looked up at me, her voice barely holding its shape. "You knew, didn't you, that he'd never take responsibility?" I didn't answer. I waited. "I told him I was pregnant," she said, her voice catching in her throat. He went silent, a whole minute. Then he handed me a check, $5,000, said I should take care of it, that we'd go no contact after. My fingertips tapped the table. I stopped myself from saying, "I told you so." She kept going, tears falling quiet and steady. I asked if his parents knew. He laughed, said, "Of course not." Said if I tried to go to them, he'd tell them I was crazy, that I stalked him. Her grip on her bag tightened, her tone turned sharp. "You must be thrilled. This is what you wanted, right?" I didn't react. I stood, went to the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, and returned. I placed one in front of her. "Have you had it confirmed, the pregnancy?" She nodded. "Clinic, 5 weeks. They said things look normal for now. Do you want to keep it?" She let out a bitter laugh. "What choices do I have? Travis's check is the only money I've got. I've been delivering for Uber Eats the past 2 days. My legs are dead. I've made $137. I spoke slowly. "You could keep the money, but don't confuse that with him giving a damn." Her eyes filled again. "So you're not helping me either." I nodded. "No, I won't clean this up for you. I won't make your decision, and I won't be your safety net." "You're that cold?" "No. Cold was you making all your decisions and pretending I had a say." She stared at me, eyes suddenly hollow. The usual sharpness in her tone, the entitled edge, was gone. I went on, voice steady. "Sophia, you're an adult. Your life can't keep running on some fantasy that your dad will rescue you, or your mom will catch you when you fall. You want to be a mother, then carry the cost that comes with it." She didn't speak, just nodded, eyes red, face sagging from exhaustion and fear. "Can I still go to school?" she whispered. I didn't answer. She already knew. This isn't a movie. There's no admissions officer waiting to bend policy for a pregnant dropout with no income and poor credit. I pushed the glass of water toward her. "You can sleep here tonight. Tomorrow you decide. Apply for state aid or buy a train ticket and go." She lowered her head, didn't say a word. My father stepped in, gently draping an old blanket over the back of a nearby chair. I set up the guest bed. It's ready for her tonight. My mother walked in, holding a large storage bag, one I hadn't seen in years. These were yours, she said softly. The baby clothes. I kept them just in case. Maybe now they'll come in handy. Sophia looked at the bag. For one flicker of a second, something shifted on her face. Uncertainty, maybe even something close to regret. But she didn't say anything. I knew what was happening. She'd hit that edge where no one else could walk the road for you. You either fall off or you learn how to keep going. We've all been there at some point. It's not something anyone can do for you. But if you make it through, you come out different, stronger. 6 months later, Sophia gave birth to a baby girl. She named her Luna. I didn't go to the hospital that day. I happened to be filming a new series on heart-healthy cooking for seniors. We were set up in the back kitchen of my parents' restaurant. My mom stepped out to take a phone call, then returned with a neutral tone and said, she had the baby. A girl, 6 lbs, 4 Ahs. They're both fine. I just nodded. No tears, no emotional reunion. But I did add a new dish to that day's menu, steamed cod with organic quinoa. Light, clean, a quiet beginning. That's how I process things now. After that, I didn't reach out, but once a month, Sophia would send a photo. Sometimes Luna frowning in a stroller, sometimes Sophia herself, sitting on a park bench, breastfeeding, a faint weariness at the corners of her eyes. There were no designer bags in the background, no polished filters, no pink-hued illusions. Her hands looked cracked, nails bare. Her eyes carried a stillness I had never seen in her before. I didn't write back often, but now and then I'd send over some baby wipes or bottle brushes. She'd had an apartment approved, state housing for single mothers. I had the address. We became something new. Not close, not estranged. Like a kite whose string had snapped and drifted to earth. The wind had passed, but the line still existed. Loretta lost her mind when she found out the baby was a girl. She took to the neighborhood Facebook group like a woman on fire. First, she accused me of destroying the family. Then she slammed Sophia for being disobedient and irresponsible. Finally, she actually wrote, "This family needs a boy to carry on its legacy." Screenshots made their way to a local forum. The backlash was swift. Comments denouncing her as sexist, outdated, bitter. Eventually, the police got involved. An official notice was filed. Loretta was barred from approaching Sophia's residence due to ongoing harassment. As for John, he unraveled completely. Jobless, drinking again. He tried crawling back to Jennifer. She responded through her lawyer with a cease and desist. Further contact would be treated as stalking. He ended up living in his car. Someone caught a photo of him sleeping in the passenger seat at a gas station. When that photo reached me, I was standing at the grill, flipping spice-rubbed chicken thighs. I glanced at the screen, said nothing, then turned the phone face down. That video became my most viewed episode of the season. The comment section was full of things like, "This is the only recipe I've actually made more than once this year. Never thought baked chicken could taste like this." I smiled, answered a few DMs from fans, then shut off my phone. My parents' restaurant had finally stabilized. The menu changed every 2 weeks. I tied my channel to the business, launched in-person tastings, and started hosting small food workshops open only to women over 50. On weekends, they came in droves, bringing recipes, bringing stories, bringing scars too. One evening, after a class, I got a text from Sophia. Just one line, "Will you come see her?" I replied with 2 words, "When I can." She answered, "Okay." I didn't rush over and I didn't shut the door, because now no one pulls my strings. I live like I cook, timing by instinct, heat by feel, flavor by my call. In 2 weeks, I'll go see Luna. Not because I'm her grandmother, but because I can finally stand in front of them, not as someone who owes or explains or performs, but simply as a woman whole and breathing. Not to redeem, not because I should, just because I want to. And that's enough.